Last time you were on, Real Madrid, of course, had just won the Clásico. Everything looked to be finally heading in the right direction. Then came the midweek trip to Germany, the Borussia Mönchengladbach struggles, and then, of course, the aftermath, or what emerged after the game between Benzema and Vinicius and Mendy. Supposedly the air has been cleared now, according to Zinedine Zidane. What's the overall reaction been in Spain?
I think the reaction has been that this is really quite a big deal. And I think that part of the reason for that is that there was a sense that Real Madrid had some flaws. They had some footballing flaws. They weren't scoring enough goals. But there was a sense that there wasn't a particularly significant internal problem. But, this was, largely speaking, a pretty good group. A group that got behind Zidane. A group that was basically reasonably united. And then in the last 5 or 6 days, we've had footage of Isco complaining about getting a few minutes, and then this footage that you're talking about, which of course is Ferland Mendy and Karim Benzema on the way out in the second half, and Benzema saying to Mendy, look, don't give him the ball, because he just doesn't give it back, he just doesn't pass, and he's effectively playing for the other team. Now, there's a whole series of caveats that can be thrown in here. Firstly, we don't know 100% for sure that it was Vinicius that he was talking about. Secondly, players say these kind of things. And thirdly, I think that actually what he said wasn't a million miles off. I think the really crushing remark is that one about how he's playing for the other team and don't give him the ball. It wasn't just, look at this guy not passing. It was, well, tell you what, let's not give it to him either, which I think is actually really quite significant. I must admit, I thought it would blow over quite quickly. I think it's been a much bigger issue than perhaps I anticipated. Maybe that was naive of me. Zidane, as you say, says that this is dealt with, that it's done now. I don't think he can say anything else. And you know what will happen now? Without any doubt, we will all be watching the Madrid game with the calculators out, with the abacus, trying to work out how many times Benzema and Vinicius pass to each other. And the other thing, of course, that will happen, precisely because we will all be there watching that, is you can bet your life that Karim Benzema this time round does everything he can to give Vinicius the ball as often as he possibly can.
Sid, I've always loved the description of the balance of power in Spain between Barcelona and Real Madrid being like a set of scales, like one is up, the other has to be down. There's no room for both of them to be up at the same time. But at the moment, quite frankly, it looks like both of them are down. Who has the upper hand at the moment between these two?
Well, I guess the Clásico victory means that Real Madrid do, but neither of them feel, I think, entirely convinced by what they're doing at the moment. Neither of them are entirely sure about what they're doing. And I suppose one way of putting this into that scales is say that, this is within the context of expectation. And of course, we know that this is a new Barcelona team with a new manager that's in transition. And so perhaps for Barcelona, it may well be that it's slightly easier to take bad results than it would have been in the past. So, for example, that 3-1 defeat against Real Madrid last year might have been enough to put an enormous amount of pressure on Valverde when he was in charge, and then, of course, Setien when he was in charge. But with Koeman being only 7 weeks into a new season, trying to change things, that very clear idea that there's a kind of a moving on of players, that there's a rejuvenation of the squad, that this is a younger team, I think actually meant that was accepted rather more than would normally be the case. And so right now, you're right, it does case of one up, one down, although after the Clásico it was very much Real Madrid up, and it does feel like neither of them completely convinced, which opens up one other question, which is, could we get a real challenge from outside the big two this year? Now, from a neutral point of view, that would be a lot of fun. The problem is whether that's a challenge based on the flaws and the if you like, the lack of quality from the big two, rather than because the rest of the league has suddenly become very strong.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.